In the book of James chapter 4 verse 15, the Bible teaches that we shouldn't speak boastfully as if everything is in our control. We should rather say, if God wills, we shall live and do this and do that. The first sentence, if God wills, we shall live, is what I want us to consider. It means that we are alive by the sovereign will of God, not by our efforts. Secondly is that we are only alive as long as the will of God exists for us to accomplish, because it is the will that gives room for our living. If God wills, we shall live. This is the implication that if God's will for a person finishes on Wednesday, there's no reason for him to be alive on Thursday. That means each day of his life is because there's a will of God. Because God wills, he was living each day. And this is how the fraudulent part of it comes up now, that I am alive because there's a will of God. If God wills, we shall live. If there's no will of God for me, I shall not live. So once God is giving room for the person's existence on the basis that he has a will that should be done, and the person seizes each day to do what he wants to do, it is fraudulent. The reason why his life is sponsored and preserved is because there is a will of God for his life. And I want you to see how vulnerable we are, that we have to say, if God wills, we shall live. Do you remember when Satan told Jesus to jump down from the temple, and he says he has given his angels charge over him, lest at any time thou dash your foot against a stone? The word anytime is very critical for me. It means that anything can happen to anybody anytime, except that the person is sustained by the charge God has given. For he has given his angel charge over you, lest at any time. Satan doesn't need a specific hour to deal with somebody thoroughly. He can do it anytime. And immediately that comes to my mind, I looked at the children of Job, that they were just in the house, they didn't go out. At any time, Satan collapsed the house on all of them. And somebody will say, thank God I'm not staying in the house during that windy season. I was outside in the field. The servants were outside in the field. At any time, the bandits came and killed everybody, and only one person survived. At any time, anywhere, and at any time. So Satan himself was the one giving that update. Say, if not that God has given a charge for his angels over you, at any time we can dash your foot against the stone. So why is God putting so much of these resources so that we can be alive? That's when we come back to James chapter 4 now. If God wills, we shall live. It's that God has a will for me to do today. That's why I'm here. God has a will for me to do tomorrow. That's why I'll be around tomorrow. And if God is giving a person room because of his will to be alive, and the person seizes each day to do the biddings of his own self, it is fraudulent. It's what gives room to what Jesus talked about, the tree that did not produce fruit. And the owner of the garden came and said, why cumbereth this tree the ground? Why is it occupying space? The why is the reason why the tree was allowed there. There is a why it was allowed. And once the why was not met, there was every reason to begin to talk about cutting it down. You might think he's just talking about a tree until you read the book of Daniel, when King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about a tree that was cut down, that the branches were very big, and then birds were on it and everything, and it was cut down to the ground. And he woke up, he thought he was talking about a tree, until Daniel came and said, that tree is you, and for 7 years you shall be cut down. So when Jesus was now talking about the tree that didn't bear fruit, and the owner of the garden came and says, let's cut him down, and the gardener began to plead, let's dig around it and fertilize it again so that it might bring forth fruit again. You can see that they were not talking about a tree, they were talking about a man that was cumbering space and not meeting why he was allowed. That's why the book of James, now that we're looking at it, is very critical. If God wills, we shall live. You are alive because of the will of God that is concerning your life. And it's unfortunate that you woke up and you don't even know the way. It's unfortunate that you are just moving around, you don't care why, because there is why you cumbered the ground. And the people that are sponsoring your existence, the personalities, if they find that you have no interest in the will of God, more than just the sovereign will of God, and say let him live, there can be a decision to cut down the tree that takes up resources without meeting why So it is critical that you know what is the will of God that is giving room for your living. If God wills, we shall live. And when we live, we ought to meet the will of God that gave room for our existence. Amen.